A group of thieves in clown masks rob a mafia bank. As the heist goes on, they betray each other, eliminating one another under the leader's orders. In the end, only one survives. The manager approaches him, saying that criminals in the city used to believe in something, honor and respect. The clown approaches him and, revealing himself as the Joker, replies, "I believe that what doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger." He escapes on a school bus. Detective Gordon lights up the sky with the bat signal, a warning to criminals. Batman is watching. While some are intimidated, others, like Scarecrow, openly defy the warning. In a parking garage, Batman interrupts Scarecrow's illicit deal, quickly subduing him and leaving him with other criminals and Batman impersonators who tried to help, ready to be arrested. Although not without getting bitten by a dog in the process. The next day, Batman meets with Gordon at the bank. Gordon informs him that the Joker's behind the heist and the bank belonged to the Mafia. The officer notes there are more banks holding Mafia money and they need to strike them all at once. As for Joker, Batman believes they should focus on dismantling the Mafia, since the clown is just one man and for now can wait. Meanwhile, Rachel, a lawyer and Bruce Wayne's childhood friend, whom he still has feelings for, is in a relationship with her colleague, Harvey Dent, the city's incorruptible new district attorney, who always carries a coin because sometimes he likes to make his own luck. Although Harvey presents himself as trustworthy, Bruce can't help but feel jealous of his relationship with Rachel. Later, Gordon asks Harvey for authorization to raid the banks tied to the Mafia. Harvey wants to be involved, but Gordon insists on discretion to ensure success. Despite this, Harvey signs the search warrants, asking in return for Gordon's trust. One night, Harvey and Rachel run into Bruce and his date, Natasha, and they end up sharing a table. The topic of Batman comes up, and while Natasha criticizes him for acting above the law, Harvey defends him, arguing that the city allowed crime to take over its streets. Hearing this, Bruce decides he can trust Harvey. Meanwhile, the mobsters gather to discuss the recent robbery. Lau, their accountant, tells them he found out the police were coming after their money and managed to relocate it to a secure location. He then fled to Hong Kong, thinking himself untouchable. Suddenly, the Joker bursts in. The mobsters, especially Gamble, are enraged to see the man who robbed them, but they're intrigued by what he has to say. The Joker points out he knows the mobsters now meet in the daytime out of fear of Batman, and even if Lau runs, Batman will go after him. He then proposes a deal. He'll kill Batman in exchange for half of their money. Gamble becomes increasingly irritated. The Joker notices this and provokes him further, saying if they don't deal with the situation soon, little Gamble won't have a nickel for his grandma. Gamble jumps up, ready to finish off the Joker, but the clown reveals an arsenal of grenades strapped to his coat. Before leaving, he tosses them his card, in case they change their minds. Batman meets with Gordon and Harvey, who discuss how the mobsters anticipated their moves. Amid accusations of corruption in their offices, Harvey insists on the need to bring Lau back. Although they face a major obstacle, China doesn't extradite citizens. Batman volunteers to go get him. Elsewhere, Gamble puts a bounty on Joker's head, but the Joker, cunning as ever, sets a trap. He pretends to be dead, is brought to the mobster, and suddenly rises, subduing him. He tells a story about how he got his scars, claiming his alcoholic father gave them to him after stabbing his mother. He then kills Gamble. Batman travels to Hong Kong, and with the help of Lucius Fox, who runs Bruce's company and supplies him with technology and gadgets, carries out a spectacular operation, capturing Lau in his building and delivering him to Gordon in Gotham City. Lau gives up the names of all his clients, and Gordon carries out a mass arrest. But the Mafia's already hired Joker. He was right after all. Suddenly, the body of a Batman impersonator crashes into the mayor's office window, carrying a Joker card. In a video, the Joker threatens that if Batman doesn't unmask and turn himself in, innocent people will die every day. Later, Bruce organizes a party to rally support for Harvey. He publicly proclaims that Harvey is transforming Gotham into a safer place and is becoming the hero the city needs. Bruce has been considering stepping down as Batman, hoping Harvey could make the figure of the Bat unnecessary. Meanwhile, Gordon discovers the Joker's card contains DNA of 3 individuals: Judge Cirillo, Commissioner Loeb, and Harvey Dent himself, marking them as the next targets. Although Gordon activates a protective operation, Loeb is poisoned, and the judge's car explodes. Bruce, aware of this threat, sedates Harvey and hides him for his safety. At that point, Joker and his assistants burst into the party. Rachel confronts him, who, approaching her, identifies her as the district attorney's partner. He asks if his scars make her nervous, and forcing her to look at him, he tells yet another version of how he got them. He had a wife beautiful as Rachel, who told him he should smile more. She was a gambler and got into debt, so the lenders carved up her face. To show the scars didn't matter to him, he put a knife in his own mouth and made himself smile. But she couldn't bear to look at him afterward and left him. Rachel, disturbed, responds by striking the Joker. At this point, we can see the Joker's manipulation tactics, which aim to undermine his victims' control over their own behavior and emotions. We see how he emotionally destabilizes them, exploits their vulnerabilities, like painful and personal stories, to provoke them. With Gamble, he agitates him using a story about his grandmother and another about scars caused by an alcoholic father, which strikes a nerve, causing him to lose control. Similarly, he tells Rachel a different version of the scar story, this time linked to a love and loss history, getting her to react violently. However, his manipulation tactics will soon reach a new level when he manages to subvert one of the seemingly unbreakable characters. At that moment, Bruce returns as Batman and confronts the Joker, who captures Rachel and threatens to throw her into the void if Batman doesn't reveal his identity. The clown drops Rachel, but Batman manages to catch her in midair and pull her to safety. With the brutal killing of public officials, no one dares persecute the Mafia, except Harvey, who remains steadfast in his mission to eradicate criminals. In a conversation with Alfred, Bruce argues that criminals aren't complicated and they just need to figure out what they're after. But Alfred warns that some men, like the Joker, aren't after logical things like money. They can't be bought, bullied, or negotiated with, because all they want is to see the world burn. Each day Batman remains silent, the Joker fulfills his threat and kills. 2 men are found dead, and at the scene, they discover the mayor is next. The mayor gives a speech at Commissioner Loeb's funeral, and despite the heavy security, the Joker's gang manages to infiltrate the guards. When the Joker fires at the mayor, Gordon throws himself in the way and takes the bullet. Chaos breaks out. Harvey interrogates one of the Joker's captured henchmen and notices a name tag with Rachel's name, identifying her as the next victim. This enrages him, and he takes the criminal to a secluded location. There, Harvey interrogates him, but the Joker's henchman doubts that he has the courage to pull the trigger. So Harvey flips his coin to determine the man's fate. Heads, he lives. Tails, he dies. Here, we begin to see a darker side of Harvey emerging. It's likely that behind his fierce devotion to order, justice, and control lies a hidden counterpart, a side of him completely opposed to his apparent values. Before the coin lands, Batman intervenes, arguing Harvey is the symbol of hope that Gotham desperately needs, something Batman himself cannot be. And if anyone finds out what Harvey's done, it would all fall apart. Batman asks Harvey to organize a press conference the next day so that he, Batman, can turn himself in to prevent more deaths, although Harvey doesn't want to give in to the Joker. During the conference, Harvey tries to convince people to stand firm against the Joker, but the citizens are desperate and demand that Batman surrender. Bruce prepares to reveal himself, but suddenly, Harvey declares that he is Batman and is arrested. A commonly accepted idea is that a person's true character is revealed in the decisions they make under pressure. The more intense the pressure, the deeper the revelation. At the beginning of the conflict with the Joker, when Batman is asked to reveal his identity and surrender in exchange for innocent people's lives, he resists. Despite having the power to stop the bloodshed, his hesitation allows it to continue, showing that he still hasn't understood that the essence of heroism lies in personal sacrifice for the greater good. However, as the pressure on Batman intensifies, a willingness to surrender emerges in him, revealing a leaning toward true heroism. Yet this noble attempt is interrupted when Harvey falsely assumes Batman's identity. Still, throughout the story, we witness Batman in a constant struggle between his duty to the greater good and his personal impulses, a journey that will ultimately reveal him either as a hero or just a fraud. Rachel visits Harvey at the police station and questions his intentions. He shares his plan with her, to be transferred so that he can be attacked by the Joker, and Batman can intervene. Rachel thinks it's too dangerous and urges Harvey to tell the truth, but he responds by flipping his coin. It lands on heads, but Rachel notices the coin has 2 identical sides. In truth, Harvey's never left anything to chance, until now. Just as Harvey predicted, during the transfer, Joker and his gang attack the police convoy. They fire volleys of bullets, and using a rocket launcher, Joker destroys the escort vehicles, leaving only Harvey's. Just as he's about to fire, Batman bursts onto the scene, taking the hit and saving Harvey. Then, emerging on his Batpod from the damaged Batmobile, Batman chases the Joker and uses a cable maneuver to flip the Joker's truck. When the Joker climbs out, he's arrested by a police officer, revealed to be Gordon, who faked his own death in order to operate discreetly and gain the upper hand. With the Joker's arrest, Harvey is hailed a hero, and Gordon is promoted to commissioner. But the victory is short-lived. That night, Harvey doesn't return home, prompting Gordon to interrogate the Joker. Unable to get answers, Batman bursts in aggressively and demands to know why the Joker wants to kill him. But the Joker only laughs in response. He doesn't want to kill him. He sees himself and Batman as 2 sides of the same coin, entities who need each other. He claims that, despite Batman's ethical code, the citizens will cast him aside once he stops being useful, because when things get ugly, civilization will eat itself. Tired of Joker's rambling, Batman grabs him, demanding to know where Harvey is. The Joker, teasing, insists Batman will have to break his no-kill rule to find the truth, declaring the only sensible way to live is without rules. The Joker then presents Batman with a macabre game. He's also kidnapped Rachel, and gives him only minutes to decide who to save, implying that choosing is itself a form of killing. Batman unleashes his fury on the Joker, but he just laughs, devoid of fear, and then, with playful cruelty, reveals the locations of Rachel and Harvey, reminding Batman he must choose. The first sentence the Joker says when he's revealed to us is, "I believe that what doesn't kill you makes you stranger," a variant of Nietzsche's famous expression, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I believe this deviation from the phrase symbolizes a deeper deviation of the Joker from an important idea of this philosopher. Nietzsche was a precursor of ideas that emphasized the notion of a world without pre-established values. From this perspective, the world lacks meaning, rules, or codes, except those we construct ourselves to navigate a purposeless existence. This outlook could be interpreted as the Joker's thesis, evidenced by his claim that the only sensible way to live is without rules. Up to this point, the Joker and Nietzsche seem to be in sync. However, a divergence soon emerges. Building from the idea of a world without values, Nietzsche conceptualized the Superman as a being who, by overcoming fear, breaks away from existing values and defines their own, creating new meaning uninfluenced by the external world. Up to this point, the Joker might appear to embody an unusual Superman. In Nietzsche's philosophy, the destruction of existing values is not an end in itself. It is a step forward towards the creation of new ones. In contrast, the Joker seems to find satisfaction in chaos for its own sake, with no constructive phase afterwards. Here, the Joker diverges into a strange kind of Superman, metaphorized by his version of the phrase, leaning into chaos and destructive nihilism, instead of overcoming nihilism through the creation of new values, rules, and moral codes. Batman races toward the location he thinks Rachel is being held, while Gordon heads towards Harvey. Both Rachel and Harvey are tied up, surrounded by barrels of gasoline with a countdown ticking away. Batman arrives, but instead of finding Rachel, he finds Harvey. The Joker has tricked him. Even so, Batman acts quickly and saves Harvey, though the explosion's flames severely burn half of his face. Meanwhile, Gordon's team arrives too late to save Rachel, who dies in the other explosion. Here, we see how Batman's decision to prioritize Rachel over Harvey, the symbol of hope for Gotham, reveals he's still not capable of sacrificing himself for the greater good. Meanwhile, at the police station, the Joker provokes the guard watching him, subverting the situation and taking control. He presents himself to the others, holding the subdued guard, and demands his right to a phone call. However, the call is not what it seems. It triggers an explosive implanted in the abdomen of another criminal, causing an explosion that clears the Joker's path to escape. Before fleeing, he takes Lau with him, who had been locked up for safety. Everything was orchestrated by the Joker. The Joker sticks his head out of the police car window, like a dog enjoying the breeze. The image of the dog is a recurring motif, which I will explain shortly. Bruce, devastated by Rachel's death, wonders if he's to blame for the tragedy. Alfred assures him that Rachel believed in what Batman stood for, and Gotham still needs him. Bruce, however, responds that the city needs its true hero, referring to Harvey. Harvey, upon waking up in the hospital and learning of Rachel's death, also breaks down. Half his face and one side of his treasured coin were damaged by the flames. Meanwhile, the Joker, having kidnapped Lau, reclaims the mafia money. Then, in front of a stunned mobster, he burns his share of the loot, declaring he doesn't care about the money. He informs the mobster that his men are now under Joker's command. The mobster responds that his men won't work for a freak, and as the criminal is dragged away, Joker suggests they dismember him and feed him to dogs, so they can see how loyal a hungry dog really is. He then declares this isn't about money, but sending a message. Elsewhere, Coleman Reese, a Wayne Enterprises employee who figures out Bruce Wayne is Batman after discovering Batmobile blueprints, is about to reveal his secret identity on television. Before he can do so, Joker calls into the show. The clown doesn't want Reese to ruin his game, so he proposes a new one. If Reese isn't dead within the next hour, he'll blow up a hospital. Gordon immediately orders the evacuation of all nearby hospitals, while he personally goes to protect Reese. While there, an angry and fearful crowd gathers outside the building, attempting to kill him. By this point, we can already discern what Joker's after and how he intends to achieve it. As we mentioned earlier, the Joker doesn't believe in a universe with pre-established values, and therefore, he sees order and moral goodness as circumstantial and hypocritical constructs, serving only to mask people's true nature. What he persistently wants to prove is that deep down, everyone is an animal waiting to be unleashed. And how does he prove it? Well, if, as we said, greater pressure leads to a deeper revelation of a person's character, then Joker plans to subject both individuals and Batman himself to extreme pressure and desperation in order to reveal their true nature. Remember what he said during the interrogation. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. And we see how he demonstrates this, turning people against Reese by threatening to blow up a hospital, manipulating public perception of Batman by threatening murders until he reveals his identity, and so on. In these scenarios, the Joker effectively dismantles people's moral codes, proving his point. But the most powerful example of this is what happens next. At Gotham General Hospital, Harvey gets a visit from the Joker, disguised as a nurse. Harvey, filled with resentment, blames the Joker for Rachel's fate, but the clown responds that he didn't plan anything. He proclaims that he's not a planner, but rather a dog chasing cars, someone who simply acts, while the mob and the police, the real schemers, try to control their environment. He just exposes how pathetic those efforts are. The Joker insists what happened to Rachel wasn't personal. He simply twisted other people's plans and used them against them. Seeing himself as an agent of chaos, the Joker claims that chaos is fair, and then places a gun in the hand of a disfigured Harvey, pointing it at his own forehead. Although, if we pay close attention, the Joker is firmly holding the hammer of the gun. Harvey, moved by the Joker's words, flips his coin to decide the Joker's life, and fate favors the clown. The Joker leaves the hospital and, true to his word, blows it up in a brutal explosion. Here we see how Joker's tactics escalate. The clown manipulates Harvey's perception of reality, using language and actions that resonate with him. He convinces Harvey that chaos and chance, what the Joker defines as more fair, have treated him more kindly than authority figures, like Dent himself, to control the world and impose a sense of justice. But this is all just a strategy. Although Joker claims not to be a planner, the reality is he meticulously plans everything, organizing his escape from the prison, switching the locations of Rachel and Harvey, and so on. This becomes evident in the coin toss, where he keeps the hammer of the gun pressed, ensuring that nothing is truly left to chance. Despite his speech about the absurdity of control, Joker paradoxically exercises control over chaos, leading me to the following speculation about his psychology. The Joker is more than an agent of chaos. He appears to be infused with it at a deep personal level. Even though his past is a mystery, and his stories inconsistent and contradictory, based on his behavior, he's likely experienced chronic unpredictable trauma throughout his life, leading to a perception of the world as chaotic and meaningless. This internal chaos that he possibly feels becomes the chaos he projects onto the world. For someone who feels internally out of control, making an environment where everyone around him shares that sensation may offer some sort of satisfaction and comfort. By unleashing external chaos and watching people act violently or desperately, the Joker may find validation in the belief that people are, at their core, chaotic and malicious, an idea that may have originated from his own past experiences. Furthermore, this unleashed chaos might provide him with a sense of control, transforming him from a victim of chaos, as he may have once been, into its orchestrator. In this context, life for the Joker becomes a game, a series of arbitrary events he can manipulate to illustrate his nihilistic perspective. He can rationalize his actions with the belief that he's not the one causing the disorder, as he tells Harvey he didn't kill Rachel, but is merely reacting to the inherently violent and chaotic nature of people. After the hospital explosion, Joker kidnaps 50 people and, using a convict, broadcasts a terrifying message on television. That night, Joker will rule the city, and those who remain must play by his rules. Those who refuse must flee, though he'll leave them a surprise on the bridges and tunnels. Meanwhile, Harvey confronts a corrupt police officer involved in his kidnapping. Two-Face flips his coin, and the scarred side determines the officer's death. Gotham's hero has been broken. Meanwhile, thousands of people try to flee the city, but with the bridges and tunnels closed due to Joker's threats, alternate routes are completely jammed. 2 ferries remain with a capacity for 30,000 people, and Gordon plans to use one to evacuate the inmates from the island, fearing the Joker plans to use them. Thus, both ships, one with civilians and the other with prisoners, set sail, but Joker, always one step ahead, has them rigged with explosive barrels, and through the loudspeakers announces a macabre social experiment. Each ship holds the detonator for the other, and they must decide who lives and dies before midnight. After the announcement, panic seizes everyone. Meanwhile, Batman, with help from Lucius Fox, locates the Joker and bursts into a building filled with clowns and hostages. After several challenges, he finds the Joker, who is escorted by 3 fierce dogs. Seeing Batman, the clown releases his dogs, and a fight ensues. The dogs serve as an interesting analogy between loyalty and the nature of these animals, and the volatility of human morality. While dogs are commonly idealized as symbols of unconditional loyalty and considered man's best friend, under certain circumstances, they can reveal a raw and savage side, as portrayed in the film. This duality reflects the human condition, showing that no matter how upright and moral people perceive themselves to be, under extreme situations of desperation and fear, their principles and values can falter, giving way to brutal and impulsive behavior, making them, in a sense, not so different from the dogs. Remember Joker's words to the mobster, "Why don't you feed him to the dogs?" You'll see how loyal a hungry dog really is. This can be interpreted as a challenge to test people and discover how strong their moral values are when desperate and frightened. In this context, Joker, who sticks his head out of the car window and self-describes as a dog who acts before unleashing his dogs on Batman, takes on the role of the alpha dog, and Batman's confrontations with dogs symbolize the struggle of the movie. Batman, representing justice, is harassed both literally and metaphorically by these dogs, including the Joker, the alpha, who represents brutality and savagery. This illustrates how human primal instinct can threaten and dismantle the facade of morality that people try to maintain. As the alpha dog, the Joker attempts to prove that just as a dog alternates between kindness and aggression, humans too, under the right stress, can shed their apparent morality and plunge into chaos and malevolence. Suddenly, Gordon receives a call from his wife saying that Harvey has kidnapped their children. On the civilian ship, a vote is held in which the majority approve of activating the detonator, but the officer in charge, with trembling hands, fails to press it, recognizing the prisoners have not detonated theirs. On the prisoner's ship, a burly man stands up, demanding the detonator, with the promise to do what no one else can. But in an act of redemption, he throws it into the water. Seconds before midnight, blows drag Batman and the Joker toward a balcony, where the clown overpowers the Dark Knight and invites him to witness the destruction, anticipating an explosion. On the civilian ship, a citizen snatches the detonator from the officer's hands, and, just as he's about to press the button, he stops, choosing mercy. Immediately after, Batman fires blades from his suit, disarms the Joker, and throws him off the ledge, only to save him at the last second, leaving him suspended for arrest. Batman proclaims that the city has just demonstrated its capacity to believe in good, although the Joker, with his sinister laughter, suggests that belief will fade as soon as they meet the true Harvey Dent. Batman still doesn't know what he means, but he's about to find out. Between Batman and the Joker, there's a duality in which each allows the other to exist, giving each other a purpose. The Joker himself expressed that he doesn't want to kill Batman, because Batman completes him. This brings to mind philosopher Alan Watts, who spoke about the necessity of opposition to define and consolidate one's own identity. Watts argues that our identity and morality are inherently linked to the existence of an other, an antagonist who not only serves as a mirror to reflect our values, but also grants us purpose and reason for being. People who consider themselves good depend on those they see as bad to confirm their own goodness. Joker and Batman act as reflections in an indefinite game, defining each other, each giving life and purpose to the other. Batman, the irresistible force, faces Joker, the immovable object. The latter emerges as the perfect antagonist for Batman, as he pushes the hero's morality and methods, based on the commitment to never kill, to the limit. This principle creates a perpetual conflict that defines the identity and purpose of both. Each becomes terribly important to the other because they mutually provide opportunities to authenticate their respective ideologies. Batman faces challenges that confirm his identity as a protector who doesn't kill, while the Joker sees in him a constant opportunity to corrupt the emblem of justice that Batman represents. Thus arises a conflict with no absolute victor, where the annihilation of one would mean the loss of direction for the other. This reveals that the self, in many ways, is defined by the other, and this understanding can lead to unusual love, respect, and acceptance toward everything we consider different from ourselves, including our enemies. Harvey takes Gordon's family to the exact place where Rachel met her end. Gordon assures Harvey he did everything he could to save Rachel, but Two-Face rejects his words, arguing Gordon could have prevented this if he had just confronted the corruption of his own team. Harvey holds Gordon's son hostage, but Batman intervenes just in time. Harvey accuses him of having thought they could be decent in times that are not. He expresses that the world is cruel, and the only morality in a cruel reality is chance, echoing the Joker's words. Harvey proceeds to flip his coin, deciding the fates of the three he holds responsible. The first toss condemns Batman, and a gunshot rings out. The second absolves Harvey, and the tension remains. When it's Gordon's turn, Harvey wants him to feel the same anguish he felt over Rachel's death. He orders him to assure his son that everything will be fine, and just as Gordon whispers the words, Batman acts, pushing Harvey and the boy off a cliff. Batman saves Gordon's son, but not Harvey. Seeing his lifeless body, Gordon suggests that the Joker has won. Everything Harvey fought for has been ruined. And when Gordon says that people will lose hope, Batman interrupts. They will not. He argues that citizens must not know Harvey's atrocities. The Joker can't get away with this. Gotham needs its true hero to endure. He then suggests taking the blame. He can bear it. He's not a hero like Dent. Gordon resists, knowing Batman is not a killer, but Batman replies that he is what Gotham needs. Therefore, he asks Gordon to hunt him, slander him, and unleash the dogs on him, because sometimes the truth isn't enough. People need their faith rewarded. Here ends the journey that reveals the true heroism of Batman. The consequences of his selfish decisions, resulting in Rachel's death, the loss of countless lives, and Harvey's transformation into Two-Face, forced him to confront himself. Under the immense pressure of these events, Batman ultimately reveals a heroic character by choosing self-sacrifice, taking the blame for others' sins to preserve hope and order in Gotham. This evolution of Batman leads me to reflect from another perspective. Carl Jung introduced the concept of the shadow to describe an unconscious part of our psyche that harbors repressed aspects of our personality. Those traits we reject or can't accept. Although we keep them under control, they subtly influence our actions and decisions. The greatest challenge is that we can't control what we don't recognize. The Joker can be interpreted as a manifestation of this collective shadow, dragging others toward chaos and forcing them to face their dark sides. In this context, Batman and Harvey represent two distinct responses to this challenge, with radically different outcomes. Batman symbolizes the transformation that occurs when the shadow is recognized and integrated, without becoming identified with it. His conflict with the Joker, especially when he teeters on the edge of breaking his own moral code, represents his battle with that dark part of himself. However, his ability to acknowledge, confront, and reintegrate the shadow without merging with it not only keeps him stable, but transforms him into a true hero. Harvey, however, exemplifies what happens when one is consumed by the shadow. In the scene where he kidnaps one of the Joker's henchmen, it's implied that beneath his flawless image lies a denial of his dark impulses. By failing to recognize this repressed side, and driven by the pain of Rachel's death, the shadow overtakes him, and he becomes identified with it. His random method of dispensing justice using a coin reveals his total submission to that darkness, incapable of distinguishing his true self from the chaos. He becomes a slave to his own dark psyche. And so, Batman fades into the shadows. Gordon's son asks why he's running if he didn't do anything wrong, and his father replies, because he's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now. So they'll hunt him, because he can take it, because he's not a hero. He's a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. At first glance, it seems that the Joker succeeded in his mission, corrupting Gotham's heroes and citizens. Harvey, symbol of justice, falls, adopting the vengeful identity of Two-Face, and Batman appears to break his golden rule by indirectly causing Harvey's death. If we extrapolate Joker's narrative to real life, the Clown Prince proves his point every time we see people show their darkest side in times of fear and desperation. However, the Joker's apparent victory crumbled when faced with the reality that, although his chaotic acts managed to break some, they also unintentionally spark heroism and resistance in others. One example is the prisoner who throws the detonator into the water, and Batman, who ultimately chooses self-sacrifice. The passengers on the boats choosing compassion and unity directly challenge the Joker's nihilistic vision, and reminds us that even in the most adverse circumstances, heroism can rise and human values can prevail. Therefore, in the real world, borrowing Batman's words, we cannot let the Joker win. While it's true that fear and despair sometimes reveal the darkest sides of people, it's crucial to resist and demonstrate that even in the darkest moments, our principles can still shine. That's the kind of hero the world needs. People who, when faced with adversity, choose the common good, showing an unbreakable and genuinely heroic character.